The scripture reading will be taken from Ephesians 5, 6 to 12. Can read. Let no one deceive you with empty words. For because of such things, God's wrath come on those who are disobedient. Therefore, do not be partners with them. For you were once darkness, but now you are the light in the Lord. Live as children of the light. For the fruit of the light consists of all goodness, righteousness, and truth. And find out what pleases the Lord. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is shameful even to mention what the disobedient do in secret. And this is the word of God.
Hallelujah. Thank you for the praise and for all. Today we're going to take a little break from Ezekiel studies, and we're going to study with the title, The World of Good and Evil. The World of Good and Evil. Just because. You might be wondering why break from the exciting Ezekiel studies. Just because. I think sometimes it's good to have a little break so we can have a little breather from the regular studies and come to think about something that is worthwhile thinking about. So today's study, you may not even want to take notes. Just take it lightly or take it heavily, however you want. Just give your ears, and I think it's worthwhile thinking about this matter. So let us read one more passage before we begin. Colossians chapter 2, verse 8. Colossians chapter 2, verse 8. I'll read it for you. See to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception, according to the tradition of men, according to the elementary principles of the world, rather than according to Christ. This is the word of God. We're living in a world of good and evil ever since the fall of mankind, because Adam and Eve ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That good and evil became mixed up, and God banned Adam and Eve from eating from that tree, because in Genesis chapter 3 verse 24 he says they might come to know good and evil. They have come to know good and evil like us, God says. And it's okay for God to know good and evil because He's able to separate and choose good over evil. But we human beings are not able to do that. And so good and evil gets mixed up in us that we don't even know sometimes what is good and what is evil. You ask me, what's good to me is good, what's not good to me is evil. That's human beings, right? We get mixed up and we do not know how to separate. However, this world, this history that we are living in, this age, from the time of the fall until the end, we are living in this conflict. We are living in the midst of this conflict between good and evil. There's good and evil in the country. There's good and evil in the world. There's good and evil within myself. There's good and evil every day. And we are every day, every moment of life, we're faced with the decision. Should I choose this or that? Which is good and which is evil? To have this judgmental mind or have this thought, is this good or evil? We have to decide all the time. The problem is, evil has become more prevalent in this world. And that is shown through the history of the Bible, the history of the seed of Adam and Eve. And from Adam and Eve came Cain and Abel, which is supposed to be the bigger one, which is supposed to be the first one. Good is supposed to be the bigger one. But the first one that comes out is the evil one, right? We can see it through Ishmael and Isaac, through Esau and Jacob, and continuing on. There's the world and Satan comes to tell Jesus in Luke chapter 4, Matthew chapter 4, this world has been given to me. The dominion over this world has been given to me. And so, therefore, this world has become a place where it is more difficult to live good. More difficult to choose good over evil. It is more natural. It is easier to choose evil. And in order to choose good, there needs a lot of effort, a lot of conflict, a lot of fight even. We have to fight and struggle to choose good. Do you agree? In our life, it is not easy to overcome evil. And through that struggle and fight is called, another name is called history of redemption. Throughout the history of redemption, there's this struggle and fight, and at the end of it, the conclusion needs to be peace. And that peace is not a result of shaking hands between good and evil. Peace comes when evil is overcome by good. And so, in this fight, in this struggle of our life and our faith, I pray that we may gain victory by learning to choose good over evil and learning to govern evil with good. Amen. It is not easy. And in order for us to do that, we first need to receive the discernment. Discernment to know to discern and to distinguish good and evil. First step is this knowing what is good and what is evil, not according to my choice, but according to God's judgment, God's standards. Second is, oftentimes we come to that level, that point. The more important level is the next one. We need to learn to choose the good. Sometimes we know what is good and what is evil, but we don't have the ability to choose and act upon the good. So, we're not going to spend time today to think about what's the difference and what's the discernment and judgment. That is done that wisdom comes only through studying the Word. Not just one time, but continuously. That is called wisdom. That is called wisdom. That wisdom comes from the Word of God. And from the fear of God. But today we're going to think about what Satan does in this struggle between good and evil. In this balance between good and evil, what does Satan do? Somebody said, in order to defeat the enemy, you have to know the enemy first, something like that. Know your enemy, you will have victory or something like that. Who said that? Napoleon or something? I don't know who said it, but somebody, Tolstoy, I don't know. Jesus, Proverbs. But what does Satan do? Just within this history of the Bible, can you remember when Satan appears? Satan really actively does his work, saying, "This is me." Many times Satan just works behind the stages, underneath, and in the hearts of the people. But we can see in the Garden of Eden, Satan appears as the serpent, right? In the form of a serpent. And he makes his debut, or his appearance. And then, where do you see? In the book of Job, you see Satan. But I'll just pick out a few things. When Adam and Eve were so close to the tree of life, that's when Satan comes and makes his appearance. Solomon had the wisdom, and the Bible says his wisdom is like the wisdom from the tree of life. Right? Proverbs continues to tell us that wisdom Solomon had was the fruit of life, fruit from the tree of life. Solomon was so close. But Satan worked in his life where Solomon fell away from that wisdom to bring in and take in Gentile wives, and as a result, worship idols or accept idols into the country. And then we can see Judas Iscariot, who was so close to Jesus, who is the tree of life. Judas Iscariot was in charge of the money box. That's how much trust, how close he was to Jesus. Satan goes into him, the devil goes into him, and he fell away. I mentioned that for me, this is a very important thing for us to think about, because when we come closer and closer to the presence of God, when we get deeper and deeper into the Word, Satan always stands there. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil was right next to the tree of life. And Satan has defeated Judas Iscariot. Do you think you and I are better than Judas Iscariot? Satan has defeated Solomon, or made this kingdom split. Do you think Adam and Eve were less than us? Adam and Eve was the most beautiful one. Adam was the wisest one, but still fell. So Satan's strategy, Satan's work is very powerful. So we need to know how does Satan transform himself into something that seems good in our life and sows that seed, the tare in the field of our lives and our hearts. And how does he influence us? Satan's greatest weapon, I think I mentioned this many times before, Satan's greatest weapon is greed. Is our greed. Our greed for food, our covetousness, our greed for ourselves, our pride. Even pride comes from greed, or greed comes from pride. And so in the Bible, those who fall into temptation, is about the greed, desire, a fleshly desire for immorality, for fleshly sexual desires, desire for food, a greediness for my own possession. And what does he do first? After we receive the word, Satan always tries to tell us, no, that might not be the right one. When we receive the word, we might get blessed. But then later, Satan whispers into our ears, in somehow, some way, telling us or convincing us that it may not be the truth. Secondly, Satan does anything he can do to cause us to spill the grace that we have received. Through sin, temptation, through people, through words. For Satan, this is very easy because he knows that we love ourselves so much. He knows how to prick and touch our pride so well. So you get blessed by the word or by praise. You get blessed by something, and turn around, somebody will say something wrong at the wrong time. And that's going to bother you. And that's going to put a hole through that container of grace, and it'll spill out. Somebody may not even have to say anything. They might just make a wrong look on their face when they're staring at you. And that will cause you to spill your grace. Right? That's why I need to, as a pastor, learn to have a poker face. Because I might be smiling, I might be thinking about something else and smile this way and then not smile this way. That person is going to say, Pastor smiled at that girl, but not to me. That has happened. Pastor said, I said hi, but Pastor, somebody told me, an evangelist, as a pastor or evangelist, you have to have good eyes. Because if you don't have very good, alert eyes, somebody may say hi way over there, you don't see that person, next time they see you, they're mad at you. How can a man of God not respond to my greeting? For Satan, it is very, very easy. Somebody got troubled and darkened because they saw pastor entering into a restroom, toilet. He said, how can pastor? Trust me, I'm not lying to you. I've heard, this is from an older generation. Maybe that person was joking, but I don't think so. That person was confessing. When I first saw a pastor going into a restroom, I was darkened. Because I came from a different religion and different background, and I thought pastors were so holy. She did not believe that the pastors don't have to use the restroom, but just the fact that she saw him going in somehow bothered her. Very weird, right? Trust me, we have to go through very weird experiences. When Satan, what I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to defend a pastor's life, but what I'm trying to say is, if Satan decides to darken somebody's heart, he will do it with anything. Anything. It could be a whiff or just a blast of wind that passes by that will make you dark. And then, Satan's another strategy is he will make sure he will cause something to happen to you or make it that you don't remember the grace, the word, and what God did to you. That's why God keeps on saying, remember the days of old. Remember what I have done. Because once we forget, once we get used to it, remember those Israelites that went through the Red Sea? In 3 days they started grumbling because they got used to it. It wasn't fresh anymore. They needed something stronger, a stronger shock, and for them to be blessed. They forget. They get used to it. And so with this in your mind, let us think about something more specifically how Satan penetrates into our thoughts and what are some of the phenomena, meaning what are some of the responses, changes that take place in our life as a result of Satan's work. This is from the Bible and also from different experiences and happenings that are taking place. And these things, I'm going to just point out three things. And if you sense something like this happening in your life or in your thinking process, that's a sign where you have to think, where did it go wrong? This can happen in a church, in a family, and this will happen in a nation. It's happening in nations. And as a result, downfall takes place. First, once Satan starts to work in our lives, in our minds, Satan gives us this, what is called victim mentality. Let us first refer to these passages. Genesis 3:12. After Adam ate the fruit, God said, Adam, where are you? Who told you that you are naked? Who told you to eat that fruit? This is the man's response. The reply. The man said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me from the tree, and I ate. He's saying, I did nothing wrong, but he's starting to blame, meaning, what does he mean? God, option one, God, this woman made me do this. Option two, God, in the end, it's your fault because you gave me the woman. Number three, God, if you had given me a different woman, the cause is in himself, but looking for all kinds of other things. And in the end, he's the victim. He's a victim of the woman, victim of God. Remember how happy he was when God made him this woman? Right? He forgets about that. He forgets about the fact that he himself received that fruit and ate. His own mouth chewed it and swallowed it. All that is deleted, and he becomes a victim. Genesis chapter 4, verse 14. Behold, you have driven me this day from the face of the ground, and from your face I will be hidden, and I will be a vagrant and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. Who's speaking here? This is Cain talking back to God after killing his own brother. Does he have any rights to claim his rights? And is he in a place to talk back like this to God? No. But he all of a sudden becomes a victim. He says, what if those other people kill me? Right? He says, I'll be a vagrant. He pities himself. He sympathizes or makes himself look like a poor kid that's being kicked out by God. And then Matthew chapter 13, verse 50. Matthew 13, verse 50. And we'll Jesus is speaking about the end time, and we'll throw them into the furnace of fire. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What is that gnashing of teeth? What does that mean? What does that mean? Gnashing of teeth. Gnashing of teeth because it's so hot. Is that right? In different instances of this word, gnashing of teeth in the original language, especially when it's used in the Old Testament. Now this is Greek, but the Septuagint, the Greek version of the Old Testament, where this is used, such as Job 16:9, Psalm 35:16, and Psalm 37:12, and Psalm 112, verse 10. This word is used to express anger. Angry because I did nothing wrong, but I am getting punished for something I don't know, kind of thing. They have this victim mentality because they don't realize their sin. Oftentimes we have this victim mentality because of the environment. I was born into the wrong family. I was born with an ugly face. I was born with a, short height or, pot belly. I was born with many different things. I was born an Asian. I was born this way, that way. My parents are not rich enough. Many times, churches that split or that have problems, nations that have problems, is because there are too many victims. And this victim mentality, once again, comes as a result of not recognizing my own sins and my own fault. And by focusing and emphasizing on how I was victimized, they try to seek for their rights, just like Cain here. Rather than saying I'm sorry and repenting before God, he's finding a reason why he's a victim, or why he will be a victim, and so seeks for some kind of pity or some kind of rights that he can have. And so he's looking for some kind of God's protection or some kind of insurance. You can see a lot of that happening in our society. And as they are saying that they are victims, one way of saying I am victimized is to grumble and complain about the system. Because of the system, I am not getting the right benefits. So many people complain about the government system, about the company system, about the church system. And it turns out those who complain loud enough, they will gather the same kind of complainers, right? And they become a bigger group. And once they become a significant number of group, those who say you're wrong will become sinner. Things will turn around. But as if you become a victim, you have a special privilege. And so those who don't understand you, or who don't pity you or sympathize with you, you can say he's a chauvinist. He's a non-sensitive person. He's all kinds of different names. So everybody wants to be some kind of a victim. Right? Feminists, they're a victim because they're women. What do you call those people? Okay, it's okay to say this. LGBT, right? Groups, different groups, here this group, that group, they're all victims. And then those who are not complaining, or those who are not saying they're victims, they're the, what do you call it? Victimizers. I'm taking an example of the society, but many things like that happening in ourselves, in our faith, in churches. I'm not saying it is not difficult for them. I'm not saying we are always, we need to always swallow and suck it up. But even though there are difficulties, even though sometimes we do get victimized by the system, and even though things are not as we expect and we want, what we need to do is to pray and overcome, rather than giving that as an excuse to find a way for me to become the center of it all. One pathetic thing is those who always victimize themselves, they will live the rest of their lives as a victim. They will always complain. They will always be not satisfied because they need to get enough consistent and constant. They need to be the focus of attention. They need to be praised all the time. But if they don't get that enough, they will complain. And for the rest of their life, they will not be satisfied. Do you know the places, what is called? The place where all those victims gather to live? in the Bible? The city of Enoch. All the Cains who lived there. The city of Babylon, Tower of Babel. All those who are victims, self-victims of the flood, they go to the Tower of Babel and build it. All those who are descended, cursed. I am cursed because I don't know why I was cursed from my birth. Who are these people? I was cursed even before I was born. Canaanites, right? And so Canaan, city of Enoch, Canaan, and the Tower of Babel, the city of Babel, Babylon and Babel. May we not become self-victimized people, but may we become victors. Secondly, Satan doesn't like distinction or consecration. Satan doesn't like it when light and darkness is separated. Satan doesn't like it when good and evil are separated. Satan wants, oh, it's okay, everything's good, it's okay, everything's okay, we love, we accept, and we're okay. Am I bothering you by this? When the Bible or the church or somebody says this is wrong because this is wrong, it bothers them. Meaning, when sin is pointed out, when light shines upon the darkness, it shocks them. It really bothers them. And so what they come up with is called the principle of equilibrium, also known as the principle of entropy. E-N-T-R-O-P-Y. Let me explain to you. Case A. 99 out of the 100%, let's say out of 100, 99 is truth and 1 is false. Who wins? 99 true, 1 false. Who wins? 99 against 1. 99? Okay, turn that around. Case B. 1 is true, 99 false. Who wins? Case A, 99 is true, 1 is false. Who is right? 99 is right. The other way, 99 is not right. 99 is true, 1 false. Who is right? 99 is right. 1 true and 99 false. Who is right? 99 is right? No, I'm asking you, what do you believe in? The true has to always win, right? Always needs to be right. Truth cannot be altered or changed or... Wow, you're confused. Am I confused? I said 99 true, 1 false. Who is right? 1 is right. Wow. That even defeats the principle of entropy. Now, in the case of, the false is Satan's side, true is the good. Good is true, and false is evil, right? So, in the case of A, where 99 is good and 1 is evil, Satan is on which side? Satan is on the one side, right? The evil side. What does he do in that case? He will bring out that victim mentality, and he'll say, it's not fair. This society is not fair. How can all of you came up on this poor little one? So he's trying to find some kind of balance. This principle of equilibrium is also known as balance theory. So he tries all kinds of arguments. By the way, Satan is very good at arguing. Okay? He brings out all kinds of arguments to make you lose focus on true or false. It makes you look at the numbers. And it did not require much convincing for you guys. I just found out. I thought everybody would say truth is right all the time, but Satan makes you lose focus on what is the absolute right, and makes you look at other information, the numbers. Okay? And then it will say, it's not fair. Where's the justice? And so, what it does, this is an explanation for the principle of equilibrium. Let's say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 1 and number 5 are called the two extremes, right? Let's say 1 is true, 5 is evil. 1 is good, 5 is evil. Okay? Where do you want to stand? 1 or 5? You want to stand on 1. But Satan is on 5. There are two extremes. But what does Satan do? He doesn't want to be the bad extreme. So he finds 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10. Right? And he lays it out. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Satan is in the middle. Equilibrium. Satan says, I am balanced. But you are still extreme. Now, more extreme. You were extreme among 1 through 5 before, but now you are extreme from 1 through 10. It's intense extreme now you are. And so what you say is ultra-conservative from what the world accepts. Do you understand this? Now Satan is not an extreme. He is the means. He's the median. He's in the middle. It's what everybody thinks is okay. Do you understand? I mentioned the LGBT problem before. Just a few years ago, that was an extreme case. Okay? But now, they added on many, many more, and even more worse things. Bestiality, or all kinds of things. And so they added on 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and now, look back, homosexuality is not so bad. Right? The percentage is growing, and so it's not so bad anymore. Do you understand the logic here? That's how Satan works. In other words, Satan, in order to make sin not seem so sinful, he adds on more sins. Looks for more of the same kind of sinners. We do this to water down my guilty feeling, to get away from my guilt. We don't want to stay at the extreme one. We try to find other people or other cases where it's done. And so now I am not so bad anymore. But what we have to remember is, whether there's 99 or 1, truth stands. Truth stands. It is very difficult. So what if it's the other case, case B? 1 is on the good side and 99 on the bad side. What will Satan do in that case? Will he say it's not fair? No. He will, when nobody's looking, kill the 1, and now there's 100% bad. That's how it works. If you are able, if this just flies by your head, it's okay. But one day, I hope you can apply this and catch Satan's work in your life. If you're able to apply this and use this measure to see how Satan is working in my mind. Third, lastly, materialism. Satan does this work it uses this a lot. And this is something that senior pastor has always preached when he was speaking about communism and how communism is work of Satan in the Bible. This materialism is a view that believes the source of all the things that we see in this universe. What you see is everything material. There's no such thing as spiritual world or invisible world, and therefore everything that is visible comes from what is visible. Everything that is material comes from material. So the source of all things is material within, and so if you're not a material thing, if you're a spiritual thing or invisible, you're not real, basically. So what about God, who says, "I am spirit"? To them? So from here comes mentality that thinks human beings can be gods, or human beings can be the supreme, equal to God. And therefore, serpent's temptation for Adam and Eve to reach up to God's level, to become like God. If God is spirit, to become like God, they need to do it in a spiritual way, not by eating that physical fruit. Somehow, Satan brought them down to this and deceived them with materialism. They think somehow this magical fruit, physically, somehow can affect them. And causes them to focus on themselves as the center of the universe very easily. And so all the idols are physical, material. Matthew 24 verse 15, "Therefore when you see the abomination of desolation which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, let the reader understand." See, this abomination of desolation, this is a physical, material idol, okay? Physical thing or person, standing in the holy place, which is a spiritual. If a material takes place and replaces a spiritual, then you will see that the end is coming. And also, secondly, under materialism, they believe outward thing is all you see and all you have. What you see is what you get, kind of thing. Meaning there's no spiritual thing, so they will boast of outward activities that they have done. Matthew chapter 7 verse 21 through 23. Matthew 7, 21 through 23. "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven will enter." See, Jesus is always comparing the physical and the spiritual. Even in just this one verse, he says, "Everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' physically on this earth, they will not enter the kingdom of heaven," which is a spiritual place, "but he who does the will of my Father," that's a spiritual thing. See, Jesus is a bridge between spiritual and physical, and even when we do the things physically, he allows them to be counted into spiritual world. Right? When we do the will of the Father, That might be physical worship, but when we do it in spirit, that is taken up and counted as a spiritual thing. However, verse 22, many will say to me that on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? When they did not do it, they were not spiritually there. They were only speaking about the physical activity here. We did not prophesy in your name. Did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name cast out demons? And in your name perform many miracles? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. But those who are chosen to eat from the tree of life, those who are truly, spiritually children of God are different. Right before this, Jesus said this. Matthew chapter 7, verses 15 through 20. Beware of the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. Jesus is looking at the spirit. You will know them by their fruits. Grapes are not gathered from thorn bushes, nor figs from thistles are they. So every good tree bears good fruit, but the bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, nor can a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So then you will know them by their fruits. So I pray that we will be aware of what Satan does. I don't know why I chose this time, or maybe I didn't choose. Why we took a break from Ezekiel to study about this. But I think this is something interesting, and if we take it more than just interesting, something that should equip us to know what Satan is doing in our life. And so when we start to complain, let us ask ourselves, am I victimizing myself? Do I have this victim mentality? Let us ask ourselves, am I trying to balance out so to hide or lessen the guilt of my sins? Am I balancing out so that I can fit into this world somehow and still kind of look like I'm believing? Where do I give my ears? And today we read Colossians chapter 2, verse 8. Do not be deceived by these words and philosophy of the world. Let us be aware that Satan is out there and we're living in this world of good and evil. And may we be the ones that will be able to choose good over evil and defeat evil with good. Let us pray.